You know what time it is? Time to hang out with Mr. Coop. With Mr. Cooper, with Mr. Cooper, with Mr. Cooper. Get the latest scoop from Mr. Cooper, from Mr. Cooper, from Mr. Cooper. Hang with Mr. Coop, with Mr. Cooper, with Mr. Cooper, with Mr. Cooper. Get the latest scoop from Mr. Cooper, from Mr. Cooper. Yeah.
Welcome to the Bit Scoop with Coop. I'm your host, Coop. Season 7 is still going strong, people. If you haven't, make sure you do go to the website, thebitscoopwithcoop.com, where you can catch all episodes from season 1 all the way to season 7. Make sure you do catch me on Instagram at MCOOP317. Big shout out to everybody at Facebook, facebook.com/thebitscoopwithcoop. You can also catch shows on YouTube at YouTube.com/The Bit Scoop with Coop, Twitter, Scoop with Coop. Okay, enough about me, people. Today's guest, oh my goodness, he is a WWE legend. He is a UFC Hall of Famer. He is the pioneer of MMA. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and the only, the most world's dangerous man, Ken Shamrock. Welcome to the show.
I appreciate that interest, man. Thank you.
Yes. Ken, how's your day going so far?
Oh, man, I'm above ground. I'm always loving life.
I love it. Yes. Now, Ken, for the people, that's down, that been living under a rock, haven't been watching any type of sports entertainment or MMA or UFC fighting, like I just told everybody before, you've done a lot in this business and businesses. And you've done so much where you actually pioneered for other people to come right behind you. But Ken, for you, when did you first realize that you wanted to become or learn the MMA fighting style?
Well, I have to say, it wasn't like especially when we first started, there was nothing we were watching that made people want to do it. It wasn't around yet. But I had a friend of mine, Dean Malenko, who's in the wrestling world, showed me a tape of Masaka Funaki and Minoru Suzuki, and they were doing this fight, and they were like punching, to open hand, kicking. Then they would go to the ground and they start doing all these joint locks. And I like, what is that? And Dean said, hey, that's what they're doing that over in Japan. I said, man, I want to do that. He goes, no, that's real. And I was like, yeah, I want to do that. And he looked at me like, what? So he goes, I can get you a tryout. They're training at my dad's school. And I said, I would love to. So he thought I was kidding, and he actually made I bought a ticket. I went out there, I made the trip, and then they put me through a tryout here in the States, and I beat everybody up. I mean, just because I fought in the streets, right? I was a wrestler, and I fought in the streets. So I just basically beat them all up. And then so Sammy, who was the promoter for Japan, then brought me up to Japan like 3 days later, brought me up to Japan, and I did this workout where they just beat the tar out of me. I mean, the first couple of guys I handled because they were young boys, but the next 2 guys I went against were the guys that I saw on the tape, Masakatsu Funaki and Minoru Suzuki. And those guys just tooled me. They beat the tar out of me, man. And I thought I did horrible. But I got a call back from Sammy saying, hey, I'd like to have you come fight on our show. And I was like, I would love to. And I said, but I don't know anything. Where do I train? There's nowhere to train here. He goes, we'll bring you up early and we'll let you work out for a couple of weeks so you get ready for the fight. So I went to Japan, started training, won my first fight, and never looked back.
Wow. Now that shows right there, ladies and gentlemen, that's trying to get into this business. Ken got it in his DNA, and he went in there and he did his thing, and you saw what he done. And tapes proves it also. Now, Ken, also, we saw how you actually got started. Everything went well for you. But what hurdles did you go through when you progressed to the next round going to UFC? What hurdles did you have to go through to get into that company?
Well, I think the biggest thing is being able to block everything out. Because when you're in the UFC and you're fighting, especially in the day where there were no gloves, it was no holds barred, you had to fight. And you couldn't worry about the second fight or the third fight or even the fourth fight. You had to focus on the fight in front of you. And a lot of people would say, well, yeah, but you got to have a strategy going in the first fight. You don't want to bang your hands up. You don't want to do something you're going to get hurt in. Dude, when you're in a fight like that, you just win. Worry about the other stuff later.
So true. So
Yeah.
true. Good gosh. Now,
That's my strategy. Just win the first fight.
wow. Now, you've been through a lot of feuds in the UFC, and I'm going to talk about one or two of them in a few minutes. But before we even get into that, did you have any mentors in the UFC and WWE to help you out? We talked about Dean Malenko. Was there any more?
No, because I was a pioneer. I was the first. So there was nobody for me to look up to other than my trainer, Masakatsu Funaki and Fujiwara Gumi, Sammy Saranaka. Those guys that brought me in, I looked up to those guys because they taught me. But here in the States, I was the first. I mean, literally, I was the guy that pioneered it. So there was nobody really for me to look up to in that industry. So I just basically started training myself, started bringing fighters in, started finding ways to learn how to train. It was all kind of just to feel, because there was no way that anybody knew how to train for no holds barred. And so we just basically went by Braille. And the only way I could think of doing it was to just basically fight. And so my guys in the gym, we would fight each other, and we would get ready for fights by fighting each other. And we got tough. We got real tough.
Wow. Wow. Now, for the people that's kind of familiar with UFC and WWE, can you explain to everybody what the Lion's Den is?
Yeah, that was a training school that I developed in a necessity, because I was going to Japan and there was nowhere here in the States to train, to do somebody punch at you and then grab you and take you down and work on the submissions on the ground. There was no schools like that. So I had to go out and find guys that I could train and that I could work with, because when I would go into a karate school or a boxing school, I would say, hey, do you mind if I use one of your guys where they throw punches at me or kicks at me and I shoot on them? And they looked at me like, what? Like, no, just training. I'm not going to hurt you. Just training. He's like, you're not going to hurt me. No, I won't hurt you. It's like, but then let me take you down. And they're like, no, we don't do that here. And I was like, I couldn't find anybody to cross over, even wrestlers. Hey, I'm going to punch at you. Try to take me down. They're like, what? You ain't hitting me. So I had to bring guys in and train them so that I had guys to train with. And that's how the Lions Den developed. And pretty soon, you know, we had at the top 10 over in Japan, we had 7 people that were ranked, me being the world champion. And then we had 7 guys ranked in the top 10 from the Lions Den.
Wow. Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're paying attention to this, because this is history in the making right now. Ken Shamrock is telling you how he was the pioneer, how he started off with this. This is something that you cannot miss. Make sure you do pay attention to this interview. Now, Ken, let's look back at a little bit more of your career at UFC. One of your famous feuds that you did have was with Royce Gracie. What was going through your mind at that time? Rewind yourself back to the 1993 through 95 era, somewhere in that era. What was going through your mind at that time, feuding with Royce?
Not what it should have been. All I saw was this skinny guy walking around in pajamas. Like, dude, are you serious? Like, are you seriously walking around in your gi? Like, what is this? And I literally, after I beat Patrick Smith, I thought Patrick and Gerard Godot were my toughest competition in that event. And so Royce was, I saw that he did submissions, but I did too. And I was stronger than him. We were about he's about 190 and I was 200. So, I mean, he was much taller than me. I knew but I didn't know anything about the gi. I didn't know how that gi worked. And so going into that fight, I really didn't have an understanding. They took my shoes away the night before, so I didn't understand how slippery the mat was. And then they let him wear his gi. So it didn't make sense to me how they took my shoes away, let him wear the gi. So I go in there and I take him down after I win my first fight, and I'm thinking I'm just going to squash him, right?
Right.
And I got this gi going around my neck, and I'm like, I could pull his arm off. I could pull anybody's body part off there, and they can't choke me. But there's no arm there. It's a rope. He has a rope around my neck, and he's choking me. And I'm thinking to myself in that split second, is this fair? Well, I guess I lost.
That's true. That's true. Now, do you wish deep down inside that feud would have went longer?
I wish the feud would have been more balanced. Like, I wish that it hadn't been tampered. Because like in the first one where they took the shoes away and they let him wear his gi, they said my shoes was a weapon. The second one, they put a time limit in there and I beat the hell out of him, but yet I still only got a draw, even though I beat him up. The third one, he knees me in the nuts because he wants to get out of the ring and he ends up getting the win. So those are the things that happen in there that I wished that would have been more on the fair side of allowing us to fight without having politics involved.
Understandable. Definitely understandable. Also, big shout outs to Royce Gracie. I do got to give you a shout out. You stepped in the ring with the world's most dangerous man. I applaud you for doing that because I don't care if it was Ken Shamrock from the 90s or now, I would never step in the ring with Ken. I'm letting you know right now, it will never happen.
Let me tell you something about Royce Gracie. Royce Gracie, even though me and him had our feud, and there's things I don't like that he did in his character, you can't take away what he did. I mean, that guy won 4 tournaments. That's incredible. I mean, you can't take that away from the guy.
That's true. Very true. Now, I'm going to also talk about, and I'm going off the top of my head with this one, Ken, and please correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was UFC 6, you and Dan Severn for the title.
Yes.
Tell me how the build-up was for that day leading up to the title match. What was going through your mind? What was going through Dan's mind? And then when you finally got into the cage, what was going on?
Well, I tell you, leading up to it was, I just felt like, one of those moments where you just know you're going to win. Like, you just believe, like, hey, I can't lose. Like, how is he going to beat me? He can't outstrike me. He might be able to out-wrestle me, but you can't win by wrestling. He ain't going to out-submission me. I got all the submission holds. He can't out-condition me because I can go for an hour if I need to. So I just thought to myself, I'm not losing. I don't know how he's going to beat me. And so going into that fight, I was so confident, man. I was really confident knowing everything about him. He just won the ultimate. Mm-hmm. Everybody had him in the favor. And I kept scratching my head like, how is he favored? It's like, how is he going to beat me? And I really had that in my mind, like, there's just no way this guy can beat me. And so I go in, when we walk into the ring and it's getting ready to ring, and I'm looking across at him, and he's bouncing around, and I'm looking right at him, and I'm looking at him, and I'm going, he can't beat me. This guy can't beat me. And then he tried to shoot on me. He was a wrestler, and I got him in the guillotine the first time, and he got out. I was like, oh, I missed my opportunity to finish it fast because I knew he would do that, and I thought I could catch it and I'll finish him quick. But he did it the first time, and he got out. And I was like, oh, man, it's going to be a longer fight. I wasn't going to destroy the guy, but I knew there's no way he could beat me. Right. So I felt like I could beat him. I just needed to get in the right position to do it because he's a tremendous wrestler. He's strong. He's big. But he can't beat me because he's not going to tap me out. He's not going to outstrike me. He may out-wrestle me, but you can't win by out-wrestling somebody. So I thought to myself, oh, no, I missed the opportunity to finish it fast. So I was prepared for a 15 or 20 or 30-minute match because I had missed the opportunity to get him fast. Well, he does the same thing. He shoots in and puts his head right back in the same spot.
Yeah, he did.
Thank you. It's Christmas time.
and, ladies and gentlemen, I want you, not right now because the interview is going on, I want you to YouTube that fight because it's funny Ken brought that up because you see Dan bouncing around and you see Ken with this look on his face like, is this really what you think you're going to do? You really think you're going to win? You showed it in your face, Ken, during that match. I still remember that like it was yesterday.
I looked at him like, you can't win. There's no way you can win. I mean, I literally stared him down. I challenged him. I literally challenged him in the tie-up. I mean, I wasn't punching him. I did not punch him. I could have outstruck him. I could have beat him up. He doesn't have any hands. But I tied up with him because I wanted to challenge him. Show me what you got.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. And you know what? Even though it was UFC 6, you did that also. And the fans got their money's worth. Because I'm kind of glad that he did charge into you and you missed it because that would have been like a Mike Tyson fight. It would have been over in 30 seconds. And everybody would be like, really? We knew this was going to happen, but really Ken really did this? So I'm kind of glad he did it and you missed that spot because People wanted to see that thing keep going. And but I'm sorry, Dan, if you're watching. And Dan Severn, I'm going to ask myself, why in the world did you shoot in again? You knew better. You really did. Seriously.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it when he did it again either. I thought he would do a low single or to tie up with me like he did in the beginning and try to throw me or something. But he went right back there again, and I was like, dude, that was the worst thing you could have done.
So true. So true. Now, Ken, we heard about the UFC side. Now, how hard was it for you to convert over? Because you were still hot in UFC and you left and went to the WWE, WWF at the time. How hard was it for you to convert over to the style of sports entertainment from UFC?
Well, I think I was fortunate enough to be able to have my first match with Vader. And Vader had experience in mixed martial arts and fighting. And so I was able to go in and basically just spar with him. That's what we did in the first match. We punched each other, we threw each other, we clotheslined each other pretty hard, and it was aggressive. And I felt that because of that, I had the opportunity to really be able to shine because I didn't really have to think about easing up. I didn't have to think about whether or not I was being too hard on somebody because he told me, dude, lay it in, you're good, we're good. And so I was able to have my first match, and he made me comfortable to be able to go in there and just do what I do. And that we would just basically do like we were in the gym sparring. And so we did that, and we had a tremendous match and a great match because people, when we walked back to the locker room, they were asking us if we were okay. And we were like, I remember thinking to myself, what are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about? They thought we were beating each other up. And I was like, okay, I guess we did our job.
Mm-hmm. You did. If I'm not mistaken, isn't it during the time where storyline wise, Vader and Gorilla Monsoon was having a little beef at the time? And I think he was actually going after Gorilla at the time. Oh yeah, R.I.P. to Vader and Gorilla Monsoon. But
Vader, he was a unique individual. He had a temper. He didn't listen to too many people, and I enjoyed watching him because he was fun, especially in the locker room too when he'd get mad.
Yes. I've heard stories. I've definitely heard stories. Now, ladies and gentlemen, also, if you don't know, Ken Shamrock, he's actually had feuds with people like Bret the Hitman Hart. They had the Hart family was going Canadian. It was like Canadian versus American going on at the time. Ken was actually refereeing a lot of matches at the time for special guest referee. He's also went after Stone Cold Steve Austin a few times, and he also, believe it or not, made Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson tap out quite a few times with his ankle lock. That's right. Yeah. You're looking at a former Intercontinental Champion right now on the screen. See, Ken, I keep up with you. I'm a big fan on all sides of the story with you, so I've been following you. Now, besides Vader, who else did you enjoy working with in the WWE the most?
I would say The Rock. The Rock was really entertaining. But again, like when you talk about the type of people I work with, you got to think about Shawn Michaels, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Undertaker, Bret Hart, Owen Hart. I mean, I literally, within that time, I worked with everybody. And
that's true.
It was an experience for me because here I saw these guys on TV wrestling. And here I was in the ring working with these guys at a high level. So it's hard to put into words when you say, well, who else do you wrestle with that you enjoyed wrestling with? And I look at it and I go, well, pick one.
But that is true, Ken, because you was there right there in the Attitude Era. You was there pre-Attitude Era and during the Attitude Era, during the corporate ministry style when you was with that group also. But here's my personal question I have that I always want to know. When you got into the ring, did you have to practice the part when you start to snap and then you beat up everybody in the ring, belly-to-belly suplex and ankle locking everybody? Did you have to get yourself in that mind frame like it became real in your head, or how did that work for you to get yourself in that angle?
That's something I think that the reason why I was so successful transitioning into pro wrestling is because everything that I did when it came to my character and everything that I did when it came to my moves were real. I just didn't snap, crackle, and pop. I just didn't break it, right? But everything I did was real. The moves were real. My attitude, the anger, the frustration was real because I used all of it as opposed to when Bret Hart told me, just be you. Go in there like you're going in to fight somebody, but just don't beat them up. Like, just go in there and kind of just like practice with them, and you'll come off as being a superstar because people will believe you because that's who you are. So I did that. I came in. I was angry. I was pissed off. I threw holds on people that would normally in a regular fight would tap people out, and I was just being me as a fighter, and it worked. I mean, I flew to the top quickly because I was me.
Wow. Now, if you didn't have BBK, and ladies and gentlemen, we about to talk about that in 1 minute. BBK, Ken know what I'm talking about. If you did not have BBK going on, do you think you could actually do one more run in WWE if push came to shove?
Well, right now I'm in BCW, the tag team champion there. I had a run at the title. I might get another run at there, so I'll be working with BCW. I also got South Africa, where I just signed a deal with them over there in South Africa. I've got a big announcement today. I think it's somewhere around 6 or 7 tonight, depending on where you're at. There's going to be a big announcement about me doing a wrestling and signing a contract with one of the companies here in the States.
Oh my gosh. I'm staying tuned for that one. I'm ready to see who it is and where you're going to go. This is very interesting. Yes. Now, far as it goes now, ladies and gentlemen, you heard about UFC. You heard about WWE. Make sure whenever you're watching this interview, make sure you do go check out that announcement where Ken is signing that, because that's big right there, very big. But another thing that's big that you probably don't know, but I believe you do know, you're also talking to the president of the Valor bare-knuckle. Now, tell everybody about this. How did this come up? How did it get into running? Tell everybody about it.
Yeah, it's Valor BK, bare-knuckle, and I'll bring you back to the no holds barred days in UFC in Japan. I fell in love with it. I remember my first time walking into the fight. It was in where was that at? Denver, Colorado. Denver, Colorado, the very first fight. And I remember walking in, watching the first fight, and they literally bare knuckle, no rules, and they started beating the heck out of one another. And I watched it, and my adrenaline just went through the roof. I was like, this is really happening. I mean, think about that. In '93, guys going in the ring bare knuckle, no rules, and fighting. That's not possible.
Exactly.
But it was happening. And I was sitting there going, I'm going to fight. I'm going to fight. I'm going to fight. Like, I was excited, man. And my opportunity to get in, and I beat up Patrick Smith in that first fight. And I was so excited, dude. I never forgot that feeling because it was something pure about bare knuckle. It was you against them. There was no equipment to make you good or worse. It was you and the God-given talent you had. And I fell in love with that feeling. And then all of a sudden, this guy, Tank Abbott, comes into the ring, and he starts wearing these gloves like they wear today. And he starts knocking fools out. And the promotion goes, whoa, what a great idea. And they started to sell it as being safety, right? But the idea was they wanted to be able to protect the guy's hands. So whoever won, they could come back and fight in another 2 or 3 months and not have a broken hand or a hurt hand. David can return and come back and fight because people want to see them again.
Right.
Or even in the tournament style, they wear gloves because what if everybody was hurting their hands, they weren't coming out for the second fight, they'd have alternates going in all the time. So by putting a glove on them, now all of a sudden that tournament style, guys weren't breaking their hand anymore.
Wow.
So instead of selling this thing the right way, like saying we want to protect guys winning, they sold it as trying to protect the fighters, quote unquote. Okay. But it's unreal because if you think about it, you hang a bowling ball from a chain, and I took the glove off and I told you